holding juvenile offenders accountable top of mind in Annapolis.
You mean you walk into a school with a gun and you can't do anything?
How lawmakers want to change the way violent cases are handled. Major shakeup in the U.S. Senate race. Former Governor Larry Hogan is running for the open seat.
He is an attractive candidate.
What a political expert says gives him an advantage and the trouble he could face along the way.
Female answered and was crying.
New dispatch audio gives more insight into an incident involving Raven star Zay Flowers. What we're learning about the investigation into an alleged domestic assault. Then carjackings are skyrocketing, and not just in the city. Our team looks into the Maryland counties, seeing the biggest spikes, and talks with residents who say they don't feel safe.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
So I'm here today to support the changes that need to be made to the juvenile reform. We think there are some good changes. All the state's attorneys in the state are supporting this change, and we think it'll make the juvenile system better.
Lawmakers gather for a second day to review the Democrats' juvenile crime plan. Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson. Thank you for joining us. For months, we've heard from prosecutors across Maryland who say the current juvenile justice laws keep their hands tied and something needs to change. Fox 45's Jeff Abel has more on the key takeaways from today's hearing. Jeff?
A real tug-of-war is playing out here in the Senate today as senators decide whether those juvenile reforms passed 2 years ago need reforming themselves.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Judicial Proceedings Committee.
We've seen gun crimes go up for kids over 220%.
Before a Senate committee today, state's attorneys describe the problem they can no longer prosecute.
The 12-year-old who walks into an Anne Arundel County school with a loaded gun, and all of a sudden we look at the law and we're like, oh, we can't do anything.
Members of the Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee began considering Senate Bill 744, which rolls back many of the reforms the legislature passed 2 years ago. The bill allows juveniles under 13 to be prosecuted for certain firearm offenses, third-degree sexual abuse, animal abuse, and vehicular theft. It would also allow probation to be extended for juveniles from the current 6 months to 1 year.
And we're not rolling back everything in Senate Bill 744, but we're taking a look at some of the things we did and say, hey, this wasn't such a good idea.
Bills like this only punish our youth instead of addressing the root cause.
But opponents insist the bill is misguided and fails to provide services offenders desperately need.
The biggest issue, the biggest problem, programs and services for children who are in need of services. And that's our problem.
Because we don't have them anymore.
We understand the fear that is real and perceived. We understand the urgency to calm your constituents by doing something. However, expediency and righteousness are rarely achieved at the same pace.
The governor and other state leaders have endorsed the reforms, but not everyone seems convinced it's the right solution at the right time.
Kind of right-sizing this solution, and that's what this discussion's about.
It's important that we take a system that has never had difficulty incarcerating or over-incarcerating our children, and we really put our focus on a front-end intervention, diversion, lack of putting children into a system where we know that once that happens and the earlier it happens, that child is more likely to be in the system for a longer period of time.
A similar hearing was passed in the House yesterday. So far, no votes have been taken. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
As Jeff mentioned, one of the main pieces of the legislation is extending probation time in certain cases. A sharp contrast to the beliefs of DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi, who has supported the abolition of probation altogether.
One of the two things probation and parole are supposed to do is keep us safer. Parole made us less safer. Probation had no impact.
A number of states' attorneys from across Maryland are speaking out in support of the bill, particularly the probation extension. Fox 45 News spoke with Baltimore County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger, who says probation is necessary, in his opinion, to get children who commit crimes the resources they need.
A couple years ago, there was a juvenile justice reform measure that was passed. And I think now many people have come to the realization that some of the changes they made just aren't working. So, for instance, one of the big ones was limiting the length of time a person could be on probation, which doesn't make any sense if the whole juvenile justice system is designed to get people help so that they don't commit any other crimes.
Fox 45 News Press Senate President Bill Ferguson on whether Schiraldi could be a roadblock to Democrats' crime plan.
Are you concerned that the Secretary of DJS may not be on board with the current policies or proposals being unveiled from the General Assembly?
We were there with the House Speaker and the Governor. The Governor is the chief executive. If he has confidence moving forward, I do too. He's the one that is charging his secretaries to implement the law. And so I think our job as the legislature is to hold everybody accountable.
Fox 45 sent questions to DJS asking whether Secretary Schiraldi supports the proposal to expand the length of probation, whether he supports the other aspects of the proposal, and why he wasn't there when Democrats announced the plan. DJS responded in a statement not addressing any of our concerns. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think lawmakers should hold juveniles accountable for violent crime? 99% of those who voted say yes. You can go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in. Former Governor Larry Hogan is running for the U.S. Senate seat, vying to become Maryland's first Republican senator since 1987. During his time as governor, he pushed for two tough-on-crime bills multiple years in a row. One of them, the Judicial Transparency Act, would establish or publish sentencing data with judges' names involved. A watered-down version of the bill passed in 2022, although critics say the changes didn't provide the transparency of the original bill. The other, the Violent Firearms Offender Act, that bill aimed to implement mandatory minimums for felony crimes committed using guns and impose stricter penalties on repeat offenders. It passed the Senate, but stalled in the House. When he left office, Hogan called that his biggest frustration as governor.
We had legislation that we thought was critically important, and every single year, all of the city leaders and all of the city legislators killed those bills. That's my biggest frustration of being governor, that we couldn't get that fixed. But it wasn't for a lack of trying. It was for a lack of cooperation.
Hogan says he's tired of politics in Washington and wants to bring change to Capitol Hill. Fox 45's Keith Daniels joins us live with a closer look. Keith?
Well, Kai, as you know, during Larry Hogan's tenure as governor, he became a national figure for being one of those rare Republicans willing to openly criticize former President Donald Trump. At the time, some of the observers thought he was doing that because of a consideration for a possible bid to the White House. But tonight, it's the Senate Hogan wants.
50 years ago,
Former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan with the announcement Friday of his run for the U.S. Senate, telling voters he wants to get back to work with solutions to fix what he calls the nation's broken politics and to fight for Maryland.
That's exactly what I did as your governor, and it's exactly how I'll serve you in the United States Senate. Let's get back to work.
Hogan releasing an engaging campaign video on YouTube. His run for the Senate, somewhat of a bombshell for some political observers.
He always made it clear he was not interested in a Senate seat.
So why now? Political analyst John Deedy ponders over Hogan's declaration.
I think because the Republican National Committee really twisted his arm in many ways to suggest we're willing to financially help you and support you any way you can because Republicans want to get a control majority of the Senate.
The decision marks a surprise turnaround for Hogan, a moderate who had considered a presidential bid. In fact, he sat down with Fox 45 News back in March when he said after some soul searching, he decided that he would not seek the GOP nomination, but said he wasn't ready to walk away from politics. He also added the Senate was out of the question.
I'm not really cut out to be a legislator. Going to Washington, arguing with 99 other people and never getting anything done. I'm not sure I'd be passionate about doing that every day.
But apparently his passion found. In his campaign video, the two-term Republican governor reminds Marylanders how his administration overcame unprecedented challenges, cut taxes 8 years in a row, balanced the budget, and created a record surplus. Hogan says now he's tired of the toxic politics that's happening across the country, which in part he says is fueling his run for the U.S. Senate.
The politicians in Washington seem to be more interested in arguing than in actually getting anything done for the people they represent. Enough is enough.
Hogan's Senate race, says Deedy, a potential major shakeup in a blue state.
It does shake up the race into the fact that most people consider this race a strong Democratic race where a Democrat would control, that basically a Democrat would win this race. Now, most people are rating it as likely Democrat, and that makes all the difference in the world.
Well, 7 Republicans have filed to enter the GOP primary, but none as well known as the former governor. Well, live tonight, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. Democrats David Trone and Angela Also Brooks are battling for their party's nomination, with recent polling from Trone's camp saying that he's leading in the race. Both candidates are reacting to Hogan's announcement tonight. Trone called Hogan a career politician who makes empty promises, and that a vote for him is a vote for abortion bans, voter suppression, and massive tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. Also, Brooks is promising she's going to beat Trone in the primary, then take down Hogan in November and protect abortion rights when she becomes the member of the Democratic majority. Fox 45 News is your home for complete coverage of the 2024 election. Stay with us on air and online at foxbaltimore.com as we follow the most important races in Maryland and across the country. We have an update to an incident related to Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers. Baltimore County Police confirmed they are investigating an alleged domestic assault at Flowers' home in Owings Mills before the AFC Championship game. Flowers hasn't been charged with the crime or named as a suspect. Audio from a 911 dispatcher is shedding more light on the incident. Dispatchers sent 2 officers to Flowers' neighborhood for a welfare check after getting a call from a woman who abruptly hung up the phone.
Female answered and was crying, said she didn't have an emergency but seemed in distress when she hung up the phone.
The results of that call are not clear. Fox 45 News requested inbound records from the Baltimore County Police Department related to this incident, but they refused, saying it's part of an open investigation. Fox 45 News spoke with State Delegate Ryan Naraki of Baltimore County, who tells us these records should be available for public access. He says, quote, "I think in this case and cases that are similar to this, the legal basis and legal fines are clear that these are records that should be open to the public." Delegate Naraki, along with 6 other Maryland lawmakers, sent a letter to Baltimore County Executive John Olszewski today demanding the release of the full 911 recording related to the incident. Fox 45 News has reached out to Zay Flowers for his agent for comment on the incident. So far, we've not received a response. This is a developing story. You can find any developments and more on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
We are getting ready for our next weather maker tomorrow. It is going to lead to rain around the region, which could impact your Saturday plans. And unfortunately, more rain will follow next week. I'll break down the timing of the rain and let you know when we dry out in my full forecast. Back to you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock, the number of car thefts is skyrocketing in Baltimore. Other areas are seeing problems as well. Why the number of carjackings has people in Anne Arundel County on edge. A Baltimore City woman tells Fox 45 News she's dealt with back-to-back break-ins, how her story fits into a bigger pattern of crime in that neighborhood. President Biden is doing some damage control amid concerns about his mental fitness to hold the office. We take a look at how that could impact his re-election campaign. The White House is defending President Biden's mental fitness after a special counsel report reinforced concerns some voters have about his memory. The investigation behind the report examined the president's handling of classified documents and resulted in no criminal charges. National correspondent Dr. Elnishar reports on the political fallout.
Let me say a few things before.
A visibly angry President Biden defending his conduct and mental fitness Thursday night.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing.
Special counsel Robert Hur, a Trump-appointed former U.S. attorney, declined to seek criminal charges, but delivered a scathing indictment of the president's mental acuity that may take a heavy political toll during an election year. Mr. Biden's memory was significantly limited, the report said, and he did not remember even within several years when his son Beau died.
How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business.
Later, when asked about the crisis in Gaza, he called the president of Egypt the president of Mexico.
The president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate.
Republicans quick to go after the president, some calling for the 25th Amendment to be invoked and remove him from office, ramping up attacks on the president's age that started long before Hur's report.
He can't put two sentences together. He can't find the stairs off a stage.
Trump has made gaffes confusing Nikki Haley for Nancy Pelosi, confusing Hungary and Turkey. Why is the mental acuity narrative so much more on Biden?
I think part of it is that Trump is just known for this sort of like word salad. And so it's almost just like it's maybe less notable that he does that.
Political analyst Kyle Kondik says given concerns about his age, the president should do more public appearances through the November election. 76% of voters said they have concerns about Biden not having the mental and physical health for a second term, according to a recent NBC News poll.
The only way you reassure people as to whether you're, with it and capable of doing the job is to actually be out there.
For Democrats worried about holding on to the White House in November, the report and the president's response adds to their anxiety. In Washington, I'm Atra Elnishar reporting.
And it's not just President Biden. Former President Donald Trump has had his share of gaffes as well, memorably confusing presidential contender Nikki Haley with former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Like Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people, soldiers, National Guard, so whatever they want. They turned it down.
He also confused former President Obama with President Biden, thanked supporters for coming to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, when he was actually in Sioux City, Iowa. And he warned Biden would plunge the world into World War II, seemingly meaning a World War III. That brings us to our national question of the day. Do you think President Biden is mentally fit to hold office? So far, 18% of those who voted say no. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in. Well, 5 U.S. Marines killed in a helicopter crash this week have been identified. They are Lance Corporal Donovan Davis, Sergeant Alec Langan, and Captains Benjamin Moulton, Jack Casey, and Miguel Nava. The 5 were all between the ages of 21 and 28. The helicopter they were in went missing on Tuesday and was found Wednesday in a remote area covered in snow in Southern California. The cause is unknown and investigation continues. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was forced to pause her speech after being disrupted by Free Palestine protesters during an event at Columbia University today. Clinton's speech was about conflict-related sexual violence, or CRSV. The former Secretary of State says it's used as a weapon of war and terrorism. Protesters interrupted her multiple times, with one calling her a war criminal.
Thank you very much.
Diane Ronald Clinton.
That's my name. That's right.
War criminal. The people of Libya, the people of Iraq, the people of Syria, the people of Yemen, the people of Palestine, as well as the people of America will never forget.
Violating the university code of Rotary. I'm asking you to leave. The delegates will now escort you out of the building.
Well, the protester shouted, quote, "You will burn at Hillary." Clinton told the audience that people are free to protest, but they are not free to disrupt events. Columbia University has not released a statement about the incident at this time. Well, coming up, a Patterson Park woman says she's already experienced 2 car break-ins this year. Her story is Fox 45 News hears from residents who say they're dealing with the same thing. And a live look over Las Vegas tonight. In just 2 days, the Kansas City Chiefs and San Francisco 49ers will battle it off in Super Bowl 58. Coming after the break, we'll show you what the Las Vegas food scene is like.
We are getting ready for our next weather maker. That arrives tomorrow, and it is going to bring rain to parts of our state. We're talking scattered showers. However, we have more rain that is going to follow as we end the weekend on Sunday. So you certainly want to make sure that you stay weather alert. I'll let you know the timing of the rain coming up in my full forecast.
Jasmine, thank you. And as we head to break, we're taking a live look right now at M&T Bank Stadium. We are 2 days away from Super Bowl 58. Many think about tailgating, the game, of course, itself, the party, and, of course, the food. Brian Schnee from our Sinclair sister station in Las Vegas shows us what Las Vegas's food scene is like.
A city with so much going on is also home to one of the best restaurant scenes in the entire country. Hundreds of thousands from all over are in Las Vegas for Super Bowl 58.
It's really a nice place to visit.
And everyone's got to eat.
I think Las Vegas has become one of the biggest food cities in America.
Television chef Andrew Zimmern is in Sin City cooking up dishes for the taste of the NFL. What does this event mean to you?
Well, I've done this now for 23 years. The event was founded 33 years ago when we had our first Super Bowl in Minnesota.
The event focuses on ending student hunger, which is something Zimmern went through.
I took meals in the Salvation Army. I took meals in soup kitchens.
Zimmern says once upon a time, Thanksgiving was the biggest food consumption day of the year.
That was eclipsed, and it's now doubled by Super Bowl Sunday. It is insane what has happened over the last decade and a half.
So whether you're at home for the big game or in Vegas,
You can have a lot of fun here, visit great restaurants.
football and food are on the same team.
What is it like to try to pick a restaurant around here?
That's the foodie question in a city where everything seems to be bursting at the seams. According to the Las Vegas Convention Visitors Authority, more than 40 million visitors in 2023, with 154,000 hotel rooms. So where's everyone going to eat?
YOLO's in Planet Hollywood comes to top of mind. I don't know why. They have wonderful tableside guac.
It's pretty interesting to try all food like from different restaurants, especially, for example, from Sinatra.
The wines was excellent. Best fajitas I've ever had.
Some of the best Korean, Japanese, Thai, regional Chinese, Filipino restaurants that there are. And I think that's a really amazing thing for people to explore here, especially because it takes you off the strip.
A city with something for everyone.
There's so many options.
How does it stack up compared to other cities you've been to?
It's probably the best because you have thousands and thousands of choices.
Vegas is for the foodies. According to TripAdvisor, there are roughly 4,300 restaurants here in the city.
Any type of food that you could possibly want, it's here.
Whether you're on or off the Las Vegas Strip, you literally have endless options. Reporting in Las Vegas, I'm Brian Schnee.
And for those not heading to Las Vegas for the game, there's still plenty of good food for the Super Bowl. In fact, a new survey from Instacart shows which snacks fans love the most. According to the Snack Time report, tortilla chips took the #1 spot as a favorite snack. 58% say they like scoop-style tortilla chips. That's their favorite. Personally, I like the hint of lime made by Tostitos. Those are outstanding. Cola, cheese blend, salsa, and pretzels finish out the top 5 respectively. Well, still ahead on Fox 45 News, the carjacking crisis extends beyond Baltimore City. The surge happening in Anne Arundel County and the victims it's impacting. And the mayor's group violence reduction strategy is expanding. We'll tell you about that coming up. We're following 3 big stories at 10:30. Mayor Brandon Scott announces plans to expand his group violence reduction strategy. Concerns some are expressing over the plans and why one political expert calls the move political. Not even 2 months into the year, and one Patterson Park woman says she's experienced back-to-back break-ins. Her story and why she says she's not the only victim. And as carjackings continue, residents tell Fox 45 News they live in fear.
We are concerned. You know, we think twice about going outside or what time we go outside.
Crime isn't confined to one area, and experts say anyone can be a target. Fox 45's Vincent Hill joins us live and has more on where these break-ins are happening. Vincent.
Yeah, Kai, well, the simple answer is they're happening everywhere to unsuspecting victims and unsuspecting places.
Carjackings, a crime that really doesn't care how old you are.
My husband's 77. After they had been beaten, one of the boys demanded their car keys.
In a crime with no geographical limits.
Not just in Baltimore City, in the counties.
Carjackings, a big concern just about everywhere. In Anne Arundel County, a 69-year-old woman carjacked at knife point at this Walmart.
Really, I don't do any stores at night anymore because of the carjackings that have been numerous everywhere.
2 miles away, a woman carjacked at gunpoint at this gas station.
Realmente estamos consternados por lo que está pasando.
This man and his wife fled their country because of crime.
Estamos un poco preocupados porque la razón de habernos movido por esta área era de que era un área confortable y segura.
So far this year, Anne Arundel police say they've had 6 carjackings. In 2023, they reported 44. That's up 30 from 2022. In Baltimore County,
Vehicle was taken by a black male, 6 feet, displayed a black weapon. I don't type.
An armed carjacking at this Starbucks.
Kind of out of place for me. Wouldn't be something I would think of.
It almost seems like the city's getting bored and they're starting to just come out into the county.
Back in Baltimore City.
The number one male, about 5'4", wearing all black and a face mask. Caller states he held her at gunpoint. No direction to travel at this time.
Baltimore police data shows there have been 34 carjackings so far this year, leaving many residents in a dilemma when it comes to their safety.
Now, are you at a point where you're reconsidering even staying in this area?
Yes, we're considering all options right now.
So the only county not to see an increase in carjackings, Harford County, with 1 in 2023 and 1 so far this year. For now, we're live in Baltimore. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. Carjackings are a concern in Baltimore City. Police have reported 46 through the first 5 weeks of the year. The city has seen more than 800 car thefts this year after a record 11,000 thefts last year. Fox 45 News continues to hear from residents frustrated.
I'm 49 years old. I work hard for my little piece of crap. I be damn one of these little kids come and try to steal my cars. I'm gonna give them something they could get stolen. I'm not playing that. People work hard for their cars.
Today, Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor spoke with one woman who says she's already suffered back-to-back break-ins along Patterson Park this year. Rebecca says after visiting the area, she quickly learned this woman isn't alone.
2468.
Clearly counting.
I mean, that's far up.
Is a lost cause.
I mean, you're going past 100 feet.
If you're trying to capture the city's dramatic upsurge in car thefts and break-ins,
this is like every car.
Just look down.
It sounds like someone just went on a one-street rampage.
Littering the ground along Eastern Avenue, beside a well-lit and heavily trafficked Patterson Park, back-to-back piles of shattered glass lining the entire street.
It's pathetic.
2 of those piles likely from Carrie Hall's car.
Last Friday, I got it fixed.
Who in the past 2 weeks,
when I went to my car this Monday, the same window was shattered.
Fell victim to back-to-back break-ins.
It's just frustrating and got me to thinking, like, is this a safe place for me to be?
Taking to social media to share her story, Hall's Facebook post met with dozens of comments from area residents suffering similar situations and expressing the same concerns. Person writing, we've had our car broken into twice in a parking pad, so no place other than a garage potentially is really safe. Another writing, loved the area but hated feeling scared the whole time. I left but missed the community. The latest data from BPD showing property crime still driving in the wrong direction. first month of 2024, police recording 757 car thefts and 372 break-ins, putting thefts up 106% and break-ins up 69% compared to this time last year.
I've heard from people that cops are barely pursuing it.
With criminals showing no signs of slowing down.
When incidents do occur, and it's basically, hey, leave it to insurance.
Teddy Lindy is among those calling on police to step up proactive patrols.
Very rarely do you see cop cars police along this street at night.
I've been living here for almost a year now, and I do not see cops anywhere outside of Fells Point on a night out.
In a city with more piles of broken glass than cops on the street, residents left to question what will it take to break the cycle of soaring thefts before their car is the next counted in the crisis.
I would hate for my car to get broken into, but if it happened, I wouldn't be surprised.
And, what are we paying all these tax dollars for?
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
If you have a story about a stolen car and know someone who's been impacted by the spike in car thefts, we'd like to hear about it. Scan the QR code on your screen and tell us what happened, or send an email to news@foxbaltimore.com. Well, after touting success in the Western District, Mayor Brandon Scott is expanding his group violence reduction strategy crime plan. But the district is moving into an area it may not be needed as much. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell has more on that move that some are calling political.
As we know, this is an election year, and Mayor Brandon Scott is seeking re-election. Political analyst John Dede says selecting the Eastern District is low-hanging fruit.
And thank you all for being here.
Just yesterday, Mayor Brandon Scott and his team announcing his group violence reduction strategy has officially expanded into the Central District and will next move into Baltimore's Eastern District.
We're beginning now to lay the groundwork for expansion to the Eastern District, our next GVRS district.
But why the Eastern, a district that was applauded last year for its success in reducing homicides and getting more guns off the streets? Here, City Councilman Mark Conway from a public safety hearing last June.
For the Eastern District, just wow. The Eastern District went from 36 gun arrests last year to 105 this year, which is insane. They're doing incredible work there, and we're seeing the returns, of course, in reductions in homicides, shootings, you name the crime, it's gone down in the Eastern District.
Then BPD attributed the success to enhanced resources in the district.
They're one of the few districts that does have a BSIC, so they have people who are constantly monitoring cameras, looking for characteristics of armed persons and other things that may lead to a handgun arrest. They also have 2 DAT teams, so you're getting double the DAT exposure by those officers who are crime focused for crime suppression. So you get a lot of that, also coupled with we have an East Side and West Side initiative.
While fielding questions during yesterday's expansion announcement, Scott also acknowledged the Eastern District's success.
They're already doing much of, if not most of, the GVRS work already is happening in the Eastern District, and you saw how well they did in the Eastern District with crime and violence last year.
So why not first expand GVRS, a strategy that pumps more police and resources into a targeted area, into more struggling districts? That's a question we sent to the mayor's office. Political analyst John Dede calls the move smart election year politics.
I think it is a smart political move to do something like this because it's an area that's having fewer problems, which is easier to show success when you're doing that. It's like tutoring an A student instead of tutoring a C student. It's going to be easier to show results with the A student than the C student.
Now, you may recall when Mayor Brandon Scott officially implemented GVRS 2 years ago, he selected the Western District first. The Western District, historically known to be the most dangerous district in the city. We're still waiting on a response to our questions. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Prince George's County Police say a 2-year-old boy is dead and a mother hurt after a shooting in Langley Park last night. Officials say a detective in the area heard gunshots. He arrived and found the mother and child suffering from multiple gunshot wounds and began providing aid. The mother and child were taken to a nearby hospital where the 2-year-old was pronounced dead. One woman tells our Sinclair sister station in Washington, D.C. she lived with the 2 victims and was devastated to hear the news.
I said, no, it cannot be Jeremy. He only passed out. Jeremy has to be still alive. It cannot be. I feel the pain of this worse than if he had been family.
Detectives are trying to piece together what happened. A $25,000 reward is being offered for any information leading to an arrest. In Colombia, the search is on for a suspect who police say shot an elderly person, a man, inside of his home. According to police, they were called to a home on Half Dollar Court around 11 last night. Excuse me. Once there, officers found a 67-year-old man with several gunshot wounds. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Detectives say they don't believe the shooting was random. Anyone with information is asked to call police. The debate over redevelopment plans in Baltimore County continues. Critics are raising concerns over certain areas called nodes or strategic locations for new development. Critics say it's not clear how these nodes were chosen, and they're worried it could lead developers to buying up property and homes in the area. Creators of the plan say they used 27 different data points to identify nodes, and just because something falls into one doesn't mean it will be redeveloped.
The nodes use metrics, and council members right now are the closest touch a resident has to their county government. So we're trying to weigh